Pluto and Aquarius. What history actually shows us about power shifts? There is a lot of noise right now about Pluto and Aquarius. Predictions, fear, utopian promises, dystopian collapse stories. So I want to slow this down and do something different. I want to look at what actually happens when Pluto moves through Aquarius, using history, not hype, because Pluto does not deal in trends. Pluto deals in power. And Aquarius is not about vibes. It is about systems, collectives, and legitimacy. The core pattern. When we look back at every reliable period of Pluto and Aquarius across the last few thousand years, one pattern repeats with uncomfortable consistency. Power stops being personal. It stops belonging to kings, popes, emperors, or singular authorities. And it starts relocating into systems, ideas, laws, networks, and movements. This is not just ideology, but it is historical record. The clearest example is the late 1700s. During the last Pluto and Aquarius period, divine right monarchy collapsed as a default system. The American and French revolutions were not just political events. They were structural redefinitions of where authority lives. Power moved out of bloodlines and into constitutions. Citizenship replaced subjecthood. Written systems replaced inherited rule. It was not peaceful or clean, but it was irreversible. The Reformation. If we go further back, we see the same mechanism in a different form. During the Protestant Reformation, Pluto and Aquarius coincided with the collapse of religious monopoly. Authority over truth was no longer held by a single institution. Printing technology made information uncontrollable. Individuals gained direct access to meaning, belief, and interpretation. Again, not peaceful, but irreversible. Earlier still, Pluto and Aquarius periods show quieter versions of the same shift. Parliaments gaining power. Legal systems constraining rulers. Institutions forced to justify themselves instead of assuming obedience. The details change. The mechanism does not. Where Saturn and Uranus enter. This is where Saturn and Uranus matter. Pluto alone does not explain how this unfolds. Saturn represents structure, law, and containment. Uranus represents disruption, innovation, and rupture. Historically, when Saturn is strong during Pluto and Aquarius periods, change happens through law, reform, and system building. When Uranus is dominant, change happens through shocks, revolutions, and sudden breaks. In the late 1700s, Uranus was active, hence revolution. In other periods, Saturn carried more weight, hence reforms that looked boring at the time but changed everything later. So the question is not whether systems will change. The question is how violently and how consciously. The often ignored phase, another important pattern, shows up when Pluto leaves Aquarius. This part is often ignored. Immediately after Pluto exits Aquarius, history shows a backlash phase. Authority attempts to reassert itself. Control mechanisms tighten. People feel exhausted, disillusioned, or disappointed that the revolution did not deliver paradise. This happens because Pluto exposes the problem. It does not magically integrate the solution. After Aquarius, Pluto moves into Pisces. That is where meaning, belief, disillusionment, and spiritual reckoning take over. In the early 1800s, after the revolutions, we see exactly this: romanticism, disillusionment with politics, a search for meaning beyond ideology. The system changed. The human psyche had to catch up. So what does all of this suggest for now? It suggests that power will continue to move away from centralized figures and into systems. It suggests that technology will play a decisive role in who gets voice and legitimacy. It suggests that institutions which cannot justify themselves will lose authority, whether they resist or not. And it suggests that the real work is not overthrow. It is integration, because history shows this clearly. Revolutions without integration lead to new forms of control. In closing, the lesson of Pluto in Aquarius is not chaos. It is responsibility. Who gets to decide how systems are built, and whether collective power is wielded consciously or unconsciously? If you're watching this hoping for saviors or villains, history will disappoint you. Pluto in Aquarius does not crown heroes. It forces humanity to grow up. Pluto does not ask if we are ready for collective power. It reveals whether we are mature enough to hold it.